Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Rugby with Pads. If you're not aware, today is Thursday and I've decided to do a little bit of a last minute look at the NFL draft. I am not a draft analyst and I was pleasantly surprised when I did pretty well in my predictions last year. So I thought, can lightning strike twice, and can we give a bit of a view with a fancy eye on things about what the draft is going to look like from tonight, and go, maybe we'll do a round 2 and 3 another day tomorrow potentially, but we're just going to look at a 32 pick, trades are plenty, anything goes kind of draft for you guys today, and we're going to discuss the fantasy impact and what I think teams are going to be looking for here. So without further ado, let's get into things, shall we? Now, I think it's pretty obvious to everyone who's going to go first off the board here. It can't be anyone but Caleb Williams, can it? I mean, obviously the Bears were all in until they weren't on Justin Fields. Justin Fields now at the Steelers. This is the easiest first round pick. He's been the number one selection for the longest time, and unless something comes out on draft night on a level of Laramie Tunsil, and his gas mask photo, look it up if you haven't seen it already. It's Caleb Williams at the number one spot. And despite all the discourse around Jaden Daniels, I think Washington can't help but they can't pass up on him. He is the most talented of the rest of the guys. He is not quite that second tier. It's the 1B, I think it's really. Jaden Daniels has a huge amount of talent, and he will be going to the Washington Commanders. Now, moving through, this is where it starts getting confusing, because New England could do a lot of things. They have a huge amount of holes in their roster, and in years gone by, you've seen Bill Belichick, give it all up and move back further. Maybe they're in love with JJ McCarthy. Maybe, they're looking at QBs further down. Maybe they're looking at a 7th round guy. I don't know what they're looking to do, but I think common logic says new coach wants to stamp his authority on things. I think Drake May is a safe pair of hands. Not the most flashy, but he'll do. He is a very Patriotsy pick, so I'm going him at the number 3 spot. Now, a lot of people are considering Arizona to be a trade candidate. I am too, but not at this spot. I think you can't pass up Marvin Harrison. And yes, it's incredibly stacked wide receiver class, but Marvin Harrison Jr. stands out amongst the Malik Neighbors, amongst the Romo and Duzes, and everyone else as well. There's a huge amount of names on here, even coming down to 33, Lab McConkey, Keon Coleman, Troy Franklin, Xavier Leggett. These are all names that are known to us and are going later. I think we're going to have a humongous offensive draft. And I think it kicks off after 3 quarterbacks. I think we're going to see, I might be spoiling a little bit here, I think we're going to potentially see 3 wide receivers go, and the first of that being Marvin Harrison to a wide receiver room in Arizona that is looking a bit thin on the ground. They need number 1. Is he the new Larry Fitzgerald? I think we can all hope so, especially for fantasy reasons anyway. He'll have shot up the draft boards if this is the case. Now, the Chargers are doing something different, and we're seeing Jim Harbaugh do something. Not quite sure what, but they don't have Keenan Allen anymore. Obviously, they've lost out on Mike Williams as well. They're going heavy on the run. They'll probably pick up someone in the running game in the 2nd or 3rd round as well. Leaves you in the wide receiver room after no free agency signings there, and more signings on defense with Josh Palmer. Quentin Johnson potentially is the number 1. He's talented, but he's just obviously had the yips last year. I think they can't give up on Malik Neighbors. And yes, there might be people here thinking that, this is where the Vikings are going to come and join in. I don't think so, because looking at the next couple of teams, looking at New York, looking at Tennessee, I don't think any of them really need are going to be looking for a quarterback, and really, it's not until you get to 11 where you're seeing someone that you might really need a quarterback. Yes, there's the opportunity for other people to come in and nab it ahead of ahead of the Vikings, but I think the Vikings are stacked up to go for the number 8. So I'm thinking Malik Neighbours actually goes to the Chargers at number 5, and I think he will be a spiritual successor to Keenan Allen over there. Goes without saying. Oh, sorry. The New York Giants need a lot of work all across the board. Do you really want to be going into the season advertising? You've got the likes of Daniel Jones and Devin Singletary as your key offensive playmakers. No, they need someone who's marketable. Roma Dunze? I can't pronounce that for the life of me, but I believe he will be going to bolster that wide receiver room. It's just a bunch of guys, the Darius Slaytons, the Wandale Robinsons. None of them are anything but slot plus guys. This guy is a burner. He will beat press coverage, beat man coverage, questionable in zone, which is a lot more what he'll see in there, but this has got to be Daboll's last shot at getting someone who's marketable and can give them the edge to allow him to be the quarterback whisperer that he was hyped to be. So Rome and Dunze going at number 6, and then we see the first time we go away from a skill player. I think it's pretty obvious who the Titans need. They need an offensive line. They need to protect Will Levis, who was sacked at an incredible rate. Joel is by far and away the best on the board at the Notre Dame tackle. He's going to go play there. I think he might get shifted to guard. We'll have to see. But either way, I think he'll be a big boost to... They are looking to improve on the passing game. They've brought in Calvin Ridley. They've obviously got DeAndre Hopkins still, where they'll bring in others later down the line. Left to be seen. Now, number 8, the guy screaming at you on the board here, JJ McCarthy. And this is where I think we're going to get our first trade. Now, I don't know whether this is a realistic trade, but I'm going to make it anyway. I believe that the Minnesota Vikings will be offering up their 111 and 123 in exchange for Atlanta's 108. Obviously, it looks like a bit too much. I'm going to throw in a pick elsewhere just to make it a bit more balanced. I'm not going to go beyond there. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how the trade compensation works. There'll probably be some other machinations, but this is the kind of move I can see happening. And because we only care about the first 32 in this one, I'm seeing Minnesota and Atlanta doing that trade. And Minnesota is doing exactly what we expect. They're going to get JJ McCarthy, and I don't believe it's JJ McCarthy to start. I do believe they are going to temper expectations. They're going to have Sam Darnold starting on a short leash and see what happens. I have got the Bears sticking at this position because I don't really know why. And I'm trying to question myself on this one. But we saw a lot of success out of the Texans last year, rebuilding quick by going hard early. I think that they have back-to-back picks, and obviously they got Stroud, who is amazing, and Will Anderson, who was equally amazing, Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. But I think that's the kind of move that the Bears will make as well, and I can see them going for who I believe is a premium edge talent here, Dallas Turner. I think he goes at 9 to the Bears out of Alabama there. Now, the Jets, I don't know, because we need to think about who the real GM of the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, wants out there. And he's obviously been going after guys who he can throw the ball to, and there is no other superior ball catcher at this range than Brock Bowers. So I can see Brock Bowers being a fantastic foil for him. He's obviously done really well with tight ends in the past. Robert Tonyan season kind of speaks to mind, but I know there's plenty more beside that in previous years as well. I think he could turn Brock Bowers into a Sam Laporta type, but he's got a wealth of weapons now. Yeah, Brock Bowers, I think, is the obvious pick for the Jets. I don't know whether they'll value tight end this high or whether they'll try and trade back and multiple picks, because I think they've got a pretty much straightforward draft this year, but let's go with Brock Bowers either way at number 10. Now, at this point, the Atlanta Falcons are coming back in. They've got the Vikings picks. I still think they've got a lot of improvement to do everywhere. And at this point, I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, what's the kind of high value positions here? And high value positions are always going to be edge defenders. And I am going to go with Jared Verse here. I think, again, outside of who we've already seen gone. I'm going to have to remind myself now of his name. We've got Dallas Turner. I think he's the obvious pick there for Atlanta. To bolster that defense, a strength of theirs, and will continue to be so. The Broncos are in a super weird place, though. I don't know what they're going to do. They've obviously just traded for Zach Wilson for absolute peanuts. So I'm not seeing that's going to be useful for them. At this point, they're in no man's land. They don't have enough draft capital. I think if you look at the rest of their picks, they don't pick until the third. They're going to need to take something, a premium player, and think about the premium positions they have that are thin on the ground. Defensive back, they lost Justin Simmons recently to free agency. Whether I don't think he's been picked up yet, but either way, I think they need someone to own a position, especially in the AFC West, where there are some awfully good pass catchers. Obviously, the Chiefs not being one of them. But I think you need to be careful of the rest of your division mates as well. And maybe I'm talking myself out of this, but I've gone with Terry Arnold, the first cornerback off the board. I think pairing him with Pat Surtain, who is a bit more of a versatile player, I think could free him up and allow Pat Surtain to become a leader of that defense. So just to recap, the first 12, we've got Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors going to the Chargers, Roman Dunze being taken by the Giants, Joe Alt for the Titans, the Vikings going after JJ McCarthy after trading up with the Atlanta Falcons. We've taken JJ McCarthy, Dallas Turner to the Bears, the edge defender there. First tight end, Brock Bowers, and probably most relevant fantasy tight end this year, who's going to have such a range of outcome, going over to the Jets. Jared Verse going to the Atlanta Falcons, and finally Terrion Arnold in the number 12 slot to the, frankly, pretty appalling looking Broncos at the moment. I'm not sure what they're going to be doing this year. And it'd be interesting to see whether Sean Payton thinks he can make anything out of Zach Wilson, or whether it's just a vanity pick. Either way, all right, let's continue with the next bunch. We've got 13. We've got an interesting one, and I've actually done another trade here. The Raiders have probably seen what's going on around them in their division, and I think they need to amass picks. And I don't know where that's going to lead them, but I am seeing the Raiders trade back. The Raiders are in a funny position because they underperformed massively last year, and obviously Josh McDaniels was out. They've got, is it Antonio Pierce, I believe, in obviously a firm favorite, and he's kept a hold of a few people, but they still have so many more building blocks to make. They have got an aging wide receiver core. Devontae Adams is going somewhere. At some point, I don't think he's going to be there forever. In the next couple of years, he won't be one of their guys anymore. So I can see the Bengals, who are still built to perform, and it's interesting hearing that. I'm just picking random numbers here to make the trade accepted here. If we just care about the 113 and 118 swap here, obviously with is it Hendricks asking for a trade? Maybe they're looking for something else to boost them, but I still think they need to work on that offensive line. And at this point, they're seeing offensive linemen go, and they're thinking, we need to get one of the premium guys before they go. And I think they're going to be trading up into the 13th spot to come and get, I'm going to murder this pronunciation, but I'm going to get Fashanu. I'm going to call him Fash out of Penn State, the tackle. I think he is going to be a great big body guy in front of Joe Burrow, who they need to keep healthy, especially this is probably their championship window where they've got a great couple of the receivers. They've still got T. Higgins for now. They've still got Jamar Chase. They've still got Joe Burrow. This is where they really need to attack, and I think that's going to lead to a bit of a run. And I think the reason why we saw the Bengals go after that, because they saw what people needed next, and the New Orleans Saints desperately need offensive line help. It was so trash. They could not run the ball last year. I think Fuaga is going to give them a chance to run the ball and give, hopefully, Kamara some actual yards. He was like 2.9 yards a carry last year, but still fancy relevant. So I think he's going to be more fancy relevant once again, because we're going to see that cowardliness still out of Derek Carr, so he's still going to check it down a lot, but hopefully he'll have a bit more time in the pocket. It's going to be a bit further up, and hopefully they'll get a bit more push on the line as well. I think that's what you get out of Fuaga at number 14 there, the offensive tackle out of Oregon State. And after a little break there, we are back at it with the Indianapolis Colts, who they've got a lot of holes again. I think they're a better team than we think, and I'm not picking straight from the top every time here. It just so happens to be, the first round. The needs are, in my head, relatively obvious. There is a lot of value at this point, but I'm going to go with another defensive pick because in a very thin a very thin defensive draft, the good players really do stand out, and something they need is a cornerback. So I think Quinion Mitchell, who I think could be not quite a lockdown guy, but a very handy piece. I think it's going to be a safe pick for them over here. And the Seattle Seahawks, I think it just works out for them every time. I don't know how it works. There are some tackle needs here, but I think they're going to be looking at what's happening elsewhere in their division and looking at the Rams having lost Aaron Donald. God bless. Look, miss you already, Aaron. But missing Aaron Donald now and needing to pick up something else on the defensive line, and I think that's where the Rams will go. But I think they want to take away Byron Murphy off the board here. As a de facto replacement, you cannot replace Aaron Donald. Nothing about that. And Colby Turner is going to be great, but I think Byron Murphy is going to be that piece that gives Seattle a little bit of edge and gives them a little bit more pressure than they could ever have done in a very competitive NFC West. I think Byron Murphy is the obvious choice here for the Seattle Seahawks here. Then I'm seeing the Rams make a move, and this is it's a funny one for me, and I'm gonna say they have had good partnerships in the past with Jacksonville, and I can see them doing a little bit of a pick swap here, moving up a couple of spots. So I don't think they're going to have to give up a huge amount to get there. The 119 for the 117. I'm going to throw in the 399 there for good measure as well. Mainly because the Jacksonville Jaguars still need a fair few pieces elsewhere. They probably don't need edge help at this point, and this is where the premium is in the draft. I'm seeing Rams go for Latu, and I think outside of interior defensive line, which I think is handled by a very versatile pair that they've already got, edge is definitely needed. And even Aaron Donald on his way out said edge is where we need the help. So Latu, get on board and get that pressure built out there. I'm then seeing the Raiders at 18 and still seeing there's nothing here for them. It's a bit of a dead zone. Yes, they might go Brian Thomas Jr., but I think there are people more in need. And I'm going to go for another trade back to back. This is going to be trade heavy. I avoided trades last year. I'm just going wild this year to see if we can hit it. And I'm seeing Buffalo Bills wanting to trade up for that. And what you can see here is Vegas amassing draft picks. And this is what I think they will end up doing. I can see them going for a couple of fourth rounders to make it really work for them. It won't let me make the trade for some reason. And I'm going to throw in a third rounder next year just to make it work. I think they'll make it work. And I think they'll make it work because I can really see Buffalo wanting to go after Brian Thomas Jr. I think it makes sense to have another pass catcher. They can't drive it all through Kincaid, but I think that makes Brian Thomas Jr., if he goes into this position, a very, very handy asset. And then we're back to the Jaguars, who did the swap with the Rams at 19. Cooper DeJean, I don't know how you pronounce it, coming off a serious injury, but I think is still probably the most talented on-ball safety / cornerback. He is a cornerback, despite what everyone says. I think he can play multiple positions, though. I think he's going to be going to Jacksonville and give them that flexibility that they need. Now, at this point, we're going to have another look at offensive line for a couple of picks. These not hugely fancy relevant guys, but I think we're going to see a bit of a run on the guys outside of the skill positions. I can see Amarius Mims being a really nice fit for a team who need to get more time on the ball. Yes, again, you could see the Pittsburgh Steelers going for a wide receiver. Whether the value's here, I don't know. Obviously, if you can get a big guy, especially from Georgia, on your team at this position, I'd be going for it. So I'm going to see Pittsburgh going that way. And I believe that Miami probably need a bit more help on the inside. Open up that running game as well. I think that could be really good if we see Devin A.K.A. In a good position. And I can see them going for Barton out of Duke on the interior offensive line at 21. And then have Philly taking a position of need at cornerback. Obviously, I think it's Darius Slay has gone now. Their secondary is a bit of a mess. So Nate Wiggins out of Clemson is my pick at 22. And then I've finally got the Falcons taking their guy in the secondary, Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback out of Alabama at 23. Now, the Cowboys are all in this year, and I think that means they just need to protect what they've got. And they have a degrading offensive line. I think that's where they need to focus their efforts here. They don't have a run game. They're probably going to bring Zeke back. It looks a bit weird. Yeah, they might bring Zeke back, but I think they'll definitely be going after a running back in the second or third. But I can see, again, they go after these guys who just work out for them on the lines in the trenches. So Fautanu, I think, get with the Dallas Cowboys and make Dak look good for another year and get him another bag on his contract. This is a position that I had no idea where to go for. Green Bay, now, what do they really need? I think about the positions that they have need. It says here, and I'm really not kind of believing it. And I'm thinking about, well, what's the real kind of value here? And there's so much, so much noise around Jajon Newton. I think that's how you pronounce it. Apologies if I've messed that completely up. And I think Green Bay might well, they're known for scouting well, and I think they'll probably see something in him. So I'm going to go for the defensive line because I felt like the secondary in Green Bay was okay, but that's where they're saying they need positional help, but they've still got players there. The defensive line can't really name a player, so I think they just need that kind of difference maker, and I think that's where we're seeing the game change with a lot more inside zone runs, power running, mixing up lots of backs. You're going to need a guy who can really get involved on the interior line there, and I think Jajon Newton, there must be something in it. So, this is a bit of a dart throw, but I'm going to go Jajon Newton to bolster the Green Bay defensive line there. I'm going to go for another defensive line player here. Tampa Bay getting their edge replacement. They've had a few people leave, especially in that kind of left outside linebacker position as well. So I think, again, I'm not going to pronounce this, but D. Robinson out of Penn State, I think, is going to be the Tampa Bay pick. And hopefully, if you're a Tampa Bay fan, I know a couple of you are who listen to this, you'll be happy with that as well. It then comes back to the Arizona Cardinals, and I did say already, I think they are a trading team, and I really do think they're a trading team. And did you know who I think is going to trade for them? I think we're going to see something akin to what we saw last year between Kansas City and the Lions. I think it was, wasn't it? But either way, I can see Kansas City coming out from nowhere and going after this pick. So let's have a look at them. They're at number 32 at the moment. Arizona at 27. Arizona have so many holes to fill, so I think they're going to go and try and steal that third rounder, which is incredibly valuable. A second, the drop off between day 2 and day 3 picks is significant. If you can amass those day 2 picks, they're really valuable. At the moment, I've got Arizona with 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5 of those. They'll be really happy with that. And I can see the Kansas City Chiefs taking a big guy. Adonai Mitchell. Yeah, a lot of people don't like him. I think he looks great. I think he's going to be fantastic. And I think even if you have a one-dimensional player in Andy Reid's system, it'll be fantastic useful. I think there was a potential idea for Lad McConkey. He's that kind of anti-zone player, which I really like. They've got guys like this, and it looks like Rashee Rice might play this season, or at least maybe miss a couple of games, but they've got guys who can sit in those zones and pick up that. What they want to do is someone who can take the top off. They've lost lost out on. They saw the back of MVS this season. They've got a room that's got people like Kadarius Toney in it. It's not something you want to hang out on. I think they've got to go after this. And Adonai Mitchell, I think, is that tier break of really athletic guys who you want on your team. We finally get Vegas picking, and I think at this point, Vegas say, right, the value is there now. You know, we didn't want to take him too early. We're going to take our potential quarterback of the future, the guy who is going to compete with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. I think Gardner Minshew will win it for now, but again, similar to how the Vikings are doing, I think it'll be a short leash. Many people are seeing Michael Penix Jr. going into the second and maybe into the third, but I think he's a nice fit for the Raiders. Big arm. That's what you want. And let's see what he can do there. I then see Detroit seeing the value in Ladd McConkey. Now, they've lost out on Reynolds. They've got a player like that already in Amon-Ra St. Brown, who they've just not given a lot of money, but they need more guys in that receiver room because it can't just all be on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think Ladd McConkey provides a huge amount. I really love the way he plays. I would love to see him on the Rams. That's my dream pick. Not going to happen. So let's see him going to Detroit as a spiritual successor. I'd love to see him pair up with Jared Goff. I think that would be really a nice little story. I've got Baltimore making their first pick here. Jackson Powers Johnson screams out to me here. If they've got Derrick Henry, the runner, you want to break open the inside, create big holes. Jackson Powers Johnson makes a huge amount of sense to run him down the middle, run him down the gut, and see what happens here. San Francisco, I think, are going to do something, and it just works out for them again. And JC Latham, I think, at this point, when you're looking at an offensive tackle, which is a position of need at this point, and if this all works out, this is where I can see them going. I think things might change if there is a draft day trade away for Brandon Ayuk. They could look at wide receiver at this point, but I think they need to protect what they've got, and they've got to pay a lot of guys. They probably don't want to pay too much on the offensive line. So I think JC Latham makes a lot of sense. Get him on a cheap rookie deal, potential for 5 years. I think it makes a huge amount of sense. And finally, we have rounding out the draft as they almost opened it. Not got quite, but number 4 and number 32 pick. We've got the Arizona Cardinals addressing more need. I think they're going to look at Darius Robinson from Missouri on the edge to really go after it. And that's your lot, guys. That is my first 32. I'm going to post on socials all of this, so it's saved for prosperity, so you guys can see it. But just to run down from first to last, we've got Caleb Williams for the Bears, Jaden Daniels at Washington, Drake Maye at Patriots, Marvin Harrison Jr. Arizona, Malik Neighbors to Chargers, Rome Dunze to the Giants, Joe Alt to the Titans, the Vikings picking up J.J. McCarthy at 8, Dallas Turner for the Bears, Brock Bowers at 10 for the Jets, Jared Verse 11, the edge out of Florida State for the Atlanta Falcons, Terrion Arnold for the Broncos, Bengals trading up to 13 and picking up Fash. Then the Saints taking offensive tackle Fuaga at 14, Quinion Mitchell, cornerback for the Colts, Byron Murphy, big value there, defensive line for the Seattle Seahawks. Rams trading up in the first round. Love to see that. Latu, edge out of UCLA. Bills trading up to get their wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 2, I guess. Brian Thomas Jr., who I think will be fantastic for fantasy. Cooper DeJean going in that trade with Rams at 19 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Amarius Mims for the Steelers. Graham Barton interior offensive line. This is a hell of a list for the Dolphins at 21. Nate Wiggins, cornerback for the Eagles at 22. Kool-Aid McKinstry to Atlanta. Troy Fautanu to the Cowboys at 24. Newton, I was going to call him Newton, to Green Bay at 25. Robinson going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 26. Adonai Mitchell at 27 in a trade with the Atlanta Falcons. The Arizona Cardinals going to KC. Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver. He's going to be a burner. He will be fancy gold and shoot straight up draft boards. Michael Penix Jr. sitting to have that competition, and I think he could be a really good value for the Raiders, and I would love to see that. And especially now they're kind of amassing some picks in day 2 as well. Lad McConkey would be a dream pick for the Rams, but I think he's going to go to the Detroit Lions. Powers Johnson, offensive lineman for the Ravens. JC Latham with the San Francisco 49ers, looking out again. And finally, finishing off at number 32, Darius Robinson to the Arizona Cardinals. Now, thank you very much for listening. Really do appreciate it. If you watch this, let me know if you like this format, doing it in one streamer style. I don't know. As always, I didn't pimp it last time, but you can support us on all the socials at Rugby with Pads. You can support us with a membership, rugbywithpads.com, or you can buy something from our store. We are going to be, you know what? I'm going to shoot myself in the foot here. Wait a week. We're going to have some new stuff in the stores and some new stores, full stop, to get everything a little bit better for you. We're going to get some embroidered stuff, some more higher quality stuff, some hats, some lower value stuff, so you guys can support the pod without breaking the bank as well. So thank you all for listening once again. I'll keep an eye on your socials as well, because I'll be trying to follow on for as long as I can stay up tonight. Hopefully this will come out before anyway, so we can stake our claim on what we think is going to happen with the draft. There are some general scoring rules around draft analysis as well. But either way, thank you so much for listening. I will see you very soon on the Virtual Gridiron.